Okay, that is an excerpt from the Syncopation book, which every drummer should have. Two books every drummer should have in their collection. Syncopation, Ted Reed, and of course, George Lawrence Stone, Stick Control. So a lot of you probably know there's this like club of drummers around the world that take the Syncopation book and apply, let's just call it many dimensions to basically pages like 34 through 44, and that can change by a page if you've got the old book or the new book. And when I say dimensions, reading the rhythms, whether in a swing pattern, Latin, straight, funk patterns, and a lot of times reading certain notes like eighth notes as short tones on the snare drum and longer tones like quarter notes or tied notes on the kick drum. To create these two-level patterns and to create a sticking pattern on top of that. And that's what I'm doing as far as what I call this funk syncopation type exercise. So what I just played was, I think, the first 4 or 5 lines to page 38 in the new book. And I was using a sticking from the George Lawrence Stone book, number 6 on the first page. And then I was reading the rhythms in a two-dimensional way, breaking them up into combinations of beats 1 and beat 3 and 2 and 4. And I'll explain that in a second. But let me first show you the sticking I was actually using, which I said was number 6 in the Stick Control book. And it's basically... Now I was accenting the quarter note or the downbeats there, just to kind of give you a pulse to how that actual sticking sounds. Now, if you bring that over to the snare drum, so if you play crossover style as a right-handed drummer as I do, you'll break the sticking up between your hi-hats and your snare drum. So I'm going to apply that now, and I'm just going to ghost the snare drum part. Okay, now I'll explain how to break the actual rhythms up in the Syncopation book in just a second. But let me give you a basic rhythm, playing the kick on 1 and 3 and the snare drum on 2 and 4, using this sticking pattern, and we're going to accent on beats 2 and 4, which fall on the snare drum nicely when you check out the sticking pattern. So this is just this is more like a blueprint of what's to come. Okay, so they're pretty funky, and and there's millions of grooves like this. This is just something to maybe dive in, work on your reading skills, and also be able to kind of reorchestrate within your reading skills at the same time, using for this exercise 3-way independence: right hand, left hand, and right foot. And of course, it could be moved around the drum kit. So now, so how am I breaking this up as far as the rhythms go? Okay, so let's talk about the parcels here. Basically, if you look at the rhythms in the Syncopation book, you have beats 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these pages are basically broken up into quarter notes and eighth notes for people who are learning, how to read rhythms on the snare drum. That's kind of how it was first applied. And so when I say that, so you could think of like there's 8 parcels: the 1 in the and, the 2 in the and, the 3 in the and the 4 in the and. So exercise number 1, if we played them as eighth notes, would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 2 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, so now's where it gets just a little deeper, so please try to follow me. So what we're going to do with those parcels, instead of putting them on the 1 in the and, 2 and, or so forth for 3 and beats 4, what we're going to do here is apply the old dotted eighth 16th combination, the dotted eighth 16th. So look that up if you're not used to hearing that term. Basically, a dotted eighth 16th pattern is 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. Okay, so you'll see an eighth note with the dot right after it, connected by one horizontal line, and then a 16th note, and you'll have a broken 16th line, determining that that's a 16th note if you're looking at notation wise. So a lot of drummers will play this maybe a kick drum pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So the dotted 8th 16th is what it's called. So this is what we're doing. This is where the tricky part comes in. So instead of breaking those parcels up into eighth notes, we're going to take beats 1, and we're going to put, if the rhythm in the syncopation book, if we have 2 rhythms that happen on beat 1, we're going to put them on the 1 and the So the first note, if you broke beat 1 down into 4 parcels, being 1 E and a, we're going to play it on the 1 and the and that'll be on the bass drum. For beats 2, we're going to play anything that happens on the 2 or the and, on the more so on the 2 and the and those will fall, beats 2 fall on the snare drum. So if you had 2 eighth notes on the reading falling on beat 2, you would have, instead of 2 and, you would have 2 E and a. Okay, so there's that dotted 8th 16th. 2 E and a. So we repeat that for beats 3 and 4. So whatever happens on beat 3, all happens on the bass drum, either on the first note of a 4-note grouping of 16th notes, or the last, making that the dotted 8th 16th. The first note of beat 3 being the 1, and the second note on the of 3. So if you had that pattern, 1, 2, 3 E and a, 1, 2, 3 E and a, and then the same thing for beat 4, except beat 4 happens on the snare drum. If it was just a quarter note on beat 4, it would simply be right on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. But if you have 2 eighth notes falling on beats 4, it's going to be on the first parcel and the 4th, or the 4 and the 1, 2, 3, 4 and a. 1, 2, 3, 4 and a. So let's say that again. Everything on beats 1 and 3 fall on the bass drum only. 2 and 4 fall on snare drum. 2 and 4 on snare drum. Now you might have the 1 and the on the bass drum, the 2 in the the 3 in the and the 4 in the It just depends now on your reading ability and level. So exercise number 1, let's take it back to page 34 in syncopation. Exercise number 1, if just played as eighth notes, would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So, but instead of playing eighth notes, we're playing them as dotted 8 16ths. So we would have 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 So we'll add that sticking. Now you're saying, well, I'm not hearing a rim shot, an accent on beat 2. Only on beat 4, and that's because on exercise 1, page 34, the snare drum falls on the second parcel on beat 2. So you're automatically going to permutate that to the of 2. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4. So I'll play number 2 with just the kick drum, and then I'll add the sticking to it. All right, so I hope you can see how that lines up on the screen as I'm putting those notation exercises in there. So I'm going to go ahead and play number 3 now, just as a straight-up groove, using the sticking kick drums on 1, then the snare drums right on beat 2, and then the kick drum on 3 is on the 3 and the and then the snare drum on 4 is on the 1, 2, 3. Okay, number 4 is an interesting one. We have on beat 1, bass drum, 1 in the then the of 2 on the snare drum. Then on beat 3, we have 3 and and then on beat 4, the of 4. And you'll see that how that notation is on the screen. 1, 2, 3. So okay, so there you have it. I'll play the rest of page 38, which when you get to page 38 in the syncopation book, every measure now is a new rhythm, and it's just a way of making longer musical sentences. Whereas when you start on page 34, all 4 measures are the same rhythm, just to get you acclimated with the material. So I know this is a deep one, but if you just follow the sequence of everything on beat 1 and 3 is bass drum, 2 and 4 is snare, and we're treating these things as dotted eighths, sixteenths, and just applying your anchor point, which is your sticking pattern, number 6 from George Lawrence Stone, it'll come together. Just give it a chance. It took a long time for me too, and now it's just a lot of fun reading them. So I'll play the last few lines on the Syncopation book, page 38, and I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you much for watching.